Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today finally for a new review concerning the new Halloween main reward, the tier 7 called Annihilator. And oh boy, is this tank simply amazing at tier 7. Let's first take a look at its gun, which is the main new feature about this tank. The aiming time and the gun dispersion are quite average in terms of value because you have 4 seconds of aiming time for 0.33 of gun dispersion. It's average, it's in the norm, so nothing to be scared about. Your tank is pretty accurate in its current state. What is important to notice is the DPM, which is 2.6k, which is quite a lot. Combine that with an amazing reload time of 13.7 seconds, 0.33 reload time between each shots, which means you will to have a total reload plus firing time of around 14.33 seconds maximum, which is not that much considering the tank does 210 alpha damage for a total of 630 alpha damage every time you shoot. Now, the only bad thing about the gun is probably its penetration with gold shells, which is only 231, which is not enough to go through mainly all the tier 8s. I mean, if you encounter something armored like Tiger 2, for example, you are really gonna struggle. But as long as you're against tier 7s, it's gonna be a nightmare for them to face you. And before going further into the details, something you need to notice about this tank, it's not a traditional autoloader. Yes, you have an autoloader, but it's the same principle as the Helsing. If you click one time, it's gonna burst your 3 shells all in a row. There is no way for you to shoot one time, temporize, and wait and shoot the 2 others after. That's not how it works. Here, when you click one time, it's gonna burst all your shells. Now, something you might want to notice about the turret is probably the traverse speed, which is incredible. 45 degrees per second for the turret, and same for the traverse rate of the tracks, which is 36. It's quite a lot. You have the same traverse and turn traverse of the turret than a medium tank, which makes it so incredible and impossible to be circled by both lights and mediums of any tiers. And that's what is really broken about this tank. Now, to finish, the only problem it has, at least in my opinion, is the fact that you are really slow. You only go to 25 kilometers per hour in average, and therefore, if you don't use a speed boost, you are gonna struggle with it. So I definitely advise you to try a speed boost on this tank. Now, concerning the equipments I'm putting on the tank, I first go for the calibrated shell because I told you really struggle penetrating your targets, especially at tier 8. That's why if you can increase it just a little bit, that would be fine. After, I go for the enhanced gun lane drive as it allows me to reduce my aim time a little bit. Finally, the refined gun because your gun dispersion is not the best, and as you're shooting all your shells at once, I can tell you it's more important to have a good gun dispersion to avoid only one of your shells to go in and all the 2 remaining going I don't know where. You have to get the refined gun. After, I go for the defense system because I'm not gonna ram anybody. I go for the enhanced armor because you're truly gonna see a difference when you're facing tier 7, not against tier 8s. Against tier 8s, improved assembly is better, but against tier 7s, this one here is way better. After, I go for the toolbox because an strike is worthless, improved optics to improve my view range a little bit and because I don't need any camos, engine accelerator to increase at least a little bit my mobility and especially my kilometer per hour. Even if it's only 1, you're gonna see a difference. And finally, the consumable delivery system because I don't need to make my durations of consumable last longer because I do not use adrenaline. Now, concerning the armor profile, we already talked about it, so I'm not gonna waste too much time here. The turret is quite amazing in terms of actually armored. Look at this, 250 millimeters, and that's when you are not angled at all. If you combine that with the fact that you have 8 degrees of gun depression, when you actually angle it, it can increase a little bit, especially on the sides there. But most of the time, your turret cheeks are going to be penetrable mostly by tier 8s. Tier 7s will struggle, except for rare exceptions, for example the SU-152 that can probably go through it with his gold shells, but most of the time it's gonna be an auto bounce. Now, you still have a lot of weak spots, which makes the tank not as broken as some others of the same tier. You have 183 millimeters at the top of your turret, which is a weak spot. You also have that cupola there, but it's quite hard to get it. Most of the time people will focus on this part. Now, of course, if we talk about about the hull, this is the weak spot, only 100mm at best, except if you take the angled zone, and here it can climb up to 120. And for the upper part of the hull, it's either you're playing with a tier 8 and you're going to penetrate, or you are playing with a tier 7 with a high penetration and you're penetrating. But for tier 6, they will bounce. The rest of the tank is quite armored as well, especially here with those big ass tracks you have, which will allow you to side scrape quite easily. Now, one thing to notice about this tank, especially when you are putting your gun elevation to the top, this becomes a weak spot. Be aware of that. When you're facing enemies, if they are in front of you and face hugging, put your gun like this to avoid them being able to penetrate that area. But overall, the tank is definitely armored and you shouldn't struggle too much as long as you're facing tier 7 and tier 6, because against tier 8, you are going to be penetrated quite easily, especially if they load golds. Now, concerning the replay, I purposely chose one where I was top tier just to show you how much of a beast this tank is. You will also notice the new attachment I have on this tank, which is a flamethrower, and which will allow you to have this kind of a flame throwing at the beginning of the game. Really cool. I like it though. Now, if you focus on the playstyle, as I told you, you are really slow. The IS is passing by, the Nashorn is passing by, literally everybody will pass by simply because I'm slow as hell. And I didn't know it. That was the first game I did with this tank. That's my first game actually with the tank, and I didn't know that my speed was going to be so bad, and that's why I did not use a speed boost, but now I'm gonna use one on my tank, definitely. Okay, we go for the first shot, and as I told you, you click one time, 3 shells are going by. It doesn't take too much for them to go in, but in the lapse of time, which is composed of 0.5, 0.66 seconds, it allows your enemies to go into cover. Here it was not the case, which makes it easier for me to penetrate, and unfortunately on the Helsing, only 2 shots went in. But who cares? Look at this. It doesn't feel like the tank takes ages to reload, you know? And it's only the beginning of the game and we already did 1k damage. God bless that tank. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, see ya. Helsing, thanks for coming. This tank is a nightmare because it combines everything you need on the tank to make it versatile. You have an amazing traverse rate, you have an amazing gun depression, you have a good armor, and the gun, man, the gun. Look at this, look at the poor SU-152. It's like an SU-152, but unlike the SU-152 has 0.37 or 0.38 of gun dispersion, here you only have 0.33, and that's what makes it quite interesting. The fact that you can literally destroy half the HPs of whatever tier 6 or tier 7 you find, and just get out of here like it was nothing. Now, I didn't talk too much about the playstyle, but most of the time, if you can, try to show your turret only an angle the maximum you can in side scrape. Side scrape and hold down are the ways to go with this tank. Now, of course, if you can't hide the hull, at least try to get into a position where you can hide only the lower part of the hull, because the upper part is the strongest. But if you can't and you're facing tier 6 like it's gonna be the case against the Cromwell here, you don't care. Just look at this. Look at how much this tank doesn't care. Boom, killing the Cromwell being in a single autoloader. Just this tank is amazing. And look at the traverse speed, man. Where some tanks like the Smasher would have been easily circled, here it's impossible to circle that tank thanks to its turn rate that is completely broken. Look at this, I'm taking bounces even knowing they are shooting at my hull, because as you have a really rounded hull, it makes it way easier for you to naturally bounce shots, especially when it comes from tier 6. Now, it's only a matter of time before we can literally destroy all of them. So here we go, we push in straight, I'm full HP, I'm bouncing everything from those tier 6, I am death, taker of lives, and here I go, killing the VK. He's gonna try to escape. As I told you, you have a really bad mobility. But even if we didn't get the kill, who cares? There is still the STR V74 out there, and we're gonna try to get our 5th kill. Of course, there is the Tiger Bee that's gonna block, because we are in randoms, and in randoms that's what usually happens. So here we go, I'm trying to snapshot as fast as possible. 2 of my shots went in, not the last one unfortunately, which didn't allow us to get 5 kills, but at least we ended up with 4k damage and 4 kills on our first game with this tank. This is an amazing tank. If I had to sum up the characteristics, you have a good armor against tier 7, not against tier 8s. You also have an amazing gun overall, an amazing traverse speed. Now, honestly, this is a really good tank, and if you manage to get it for 10 bucks, it's an amazing deal, because I'm 100% sure Wargaming is gonna put it back in the game, but for crates only. If you enjoyed that review, guys, feel free to subscribe, like, and share, and tell me in the comments what you think about this tank. Is it balanced, is it good, or is it completely broken? Thank you all for watching, and see you soon.